What's up, guys? Welcome to the Second Take. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jonah.
And we have yet another podcast for everyone. We're ready to get into some heated arguments this time. So we promised the first show that we disagree on almost everything, and that's definitely true, but we just haven't shown that very much so far. But today's the day. So get ready. So let's start with the weekend review. The Islanders lost in 5 games to the Lightning. Insert crying Jordan or Jonah face here. Sorry, Jonah, I had to do it. Cavs with yet another sweep of the Hawks, making it 8 straight wins in the playoffs. The Cubs are ready to break the curse, and Bryce Harper just keeps getting walked. NFL rookie camps have started, so Sam Bradford decided it might actually be a good idea to come back and compete for his job. And we finally get closer and closer to the end of the NHL and NBA playoffs. So since I got on Jonah a little bit about the Islanders, I'll get on myself a little bit. A couple days ago, I told Jonah that I personally guarantee the Capitals will beat the Fighting Sidney Crosbys in 7 games, and I'm sticking to it. So next week, we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we may or may not have some money on that series.
So when Game 7 comes around next, or what would be Thursday, so that's when we'll have a lot to discuss.
Yeah, the stakes are higher now in a couple of different ways, so it's
exactly
interesting.
Alright, so we're going to get right into the NBA, and we're going to talk a little bit about coaching, because Jonah and I both think there is a lot of success is to do with coaching, and I have a little bit of a different opinion. I think Steve Kerr is the best coach in the NBA right now. Jonah thinks someone else in San Antonio is, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, Jonah, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think this is interesting because obviously I think Steve Kerr is a great coach. Based on what he's seen, he's had about the best beginning of a coaching career that you could imagine. Yeah, these are 2 teams that might meet in the Western Conference Finals. We'll talk about that a little bit later, obviously, also. But I think that based on body of work and everything, I don't think you could say anybody other than Greg Popovich is the best coach in the league. And my number one example of this is Boris Diaw, actually.
Okay.
Boris Diaw is probably he's generously listed at 6'9", right? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
And he weighs, I don't know, a good 379 pounds probably. And Greg Popovich, through his works of magic, has turned Boris Diaw into a very competent NBA playoff center. And that's just one example of 1,000 times that Greg Popovich, with his Spurs teams of the past couple of decades, has taken players to another level from what would have normally been possible with just a standard NBA team and offense. So obviously, if you're looking at winning percentage, you're not going to beat Steve Kerr. But I think it's hard to say after 2 years that Steve Kerr is a better coach than Greg Popovich, based on how much Popovich has accomplished.
So, to add to what Jonah just said about Boris Diaw, last week there was a report asking Popovich, you know how he doesn't answer questions very well, but they asked him why Boris Diaw, who plays good minutes, always seems to be in at the end of games for no reason. And he said it's because he needs to watch his weight, and that's the only way he knows how to make him watch his weight. So, just give him the extra minutes to drop those pounds, but...
yeah, see, he's a wizard. He lives in line.
So, everything you just said, I completely agree with. The things that he does with the talent he has, he has great talent. Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge are great, but it's not LeBron James, it's not Steph Curry, it's not Kevin Durant, but he's still doing the things he does every year, year in and year out. But the one thing that I think separates Kerr from Popovich is Steph Curry, not because he's the greatest player ever, but because, not ever, greatest player this year, but because he can score 40 points a game, but you can't stop him. And yeah, he makes crazy shots, but he's also open way more than he should ever be open. And it has a little bit to do with what Steph does, but a lot to do with the play calls and the way that Kerr sets screens for him to get him open. And another thing that I was thinking of when we talked about this topic is Maurice Spates, who was on fire at the beginning of their first round series, got pretty cold in the last couple of games against the Blazers. Hasn't played much. Festus Ezeli has played, and he's dominated. So he knows who to play, when to play them. They seem like they have just a rotation of great players no matter what's happening. And there's so many players on that team that know they're good, and Steve Kerr manages them perfectly to get them all the right minutes, all the right shots. It seems like every player on that team is always in the right position to succeed. And yeah, he's only coached for a year and a half. He's got one title and hopefully a second one coming, but I think that's what separates him just a little bit from Popovich. I think Popovich is a great coach, and another one that I think is great is Spoelstra. They're all great game managers, and in-game coaching changes always are perfect for them, but I think Kerr's just a little bit ahead of Popovich.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly see where the argument is coming from. I think you can make a similar argument with Popovich with Kawhi, though. Like, I mean, obviously, Kawhi was always a super talented player, but I don't think, yeah, I mean, by anybody's measure right now, he's one of the 5 best players in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he gets there with any other coach. Like, I think maybe he's an all-star with another coach because he certainly has the talent. He's, like, everywhere all the time on defense. Like, he has a lot of stuff that you can't teach. But just, like, his defensive fundamentals, like, when you watch him play, he's just like a mirror on defense. And he wasn't, like, he was always a good defender, but in college he wasn't like that. And I think that, like, he's the type of talented player that could become an all-star anyway. But I don't think he gets to, like, first-team All-NBA without Popovich as the coach.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I don't know much about the NBA is how much coaching has an effect on development. Like, is it just a player in the gym shooting for hours? Like, Kobe, I don't think... I mean, Phil Jackson affected Kobe for sure, but I don't think... If Kobe doesn't have the mentality he does, Phil Jackson wouldn't help him much at all. Like, so that's what I don't know about in terms of development. Which, I mean, every person that Greg Popovich has touched has essentially succeeded. Like, you see, even Corey Joseph playing for the Raptors right now, he's playing crunch time minutes, and he's playing really, really well. And you wouldn't even know who he was because he backed up Tony Parker for, like, 5 years. So...
Right, and like, he teaches them... But like, I wouldn't just say that based on Kawhi alone because sometimes players just make a leap. And in terms of talent, they learn how to do stuff, and, like, sometimes that just happens, and it's not necessarily due to coaching, but I think with the Spurs, you see a pattern of this type of thing happening with guys. I mean, I don't know, I mean, even Tony Parker, like, he wasn't a highly talented prospect.
Yeah, Ginobili, they have the most unathletic players that just can score.
That's the thing is, with the Spurs organization, and maybe it's the whole Spurs organization and not just Popovich, but what they do is, like, they snap these guys up out of Europe that nobody's ever heard of, and then they all become good players.
Yeah.
Like, they don't miss on these guys. I mean, Tony Parker and Ginobili are the best known examples, but, like, even Boban Marjanovic, like, that big caveman looking dude they got this year.
I love him.
Yeah, somebody's going to pay him big money in free agency this year.
Yeah, like, Tiago Splitter is getting paid $100 million to sit on the Hawks bench, so what the heck?
Yeah. Well, right, I mean, the Hawks coach is part of the Spurs coaching tree, so maybe it's like all part of that system. But yeah, I just think that the Spurs organization and Popovich in general have this just a big history of turning guys from lesser prospects into phenomenal NBA players.
So the only argument I have to rebut what you just said is so about Kawhi essentially being not like comparing him to Steph Curry, but being that superstar that you're also getting open. So the Warriors, Draymond Green is a stud, yes, but he doesn't play in the post. And I think if you pair a 3-point shooter with a post player, you get that in and out game, like what the Spurs have with Aldridge and Kawhi. So I think it's much easier to get Kawhi open because of LaMarcus Aldridge and Tim Duncan. And also because they have Tony Parker being the primary ball handler. But with Steph being the primary ball handler and not having that inside post presence that's going to like actually be a threat, makes it that much harder to get Steph open, which I think also makes it that much harder for Steve Kerr to draw up plays that are going to get him open. And he also does it with Klay Thompson. I mean, Klay Thompson pretty much is the only person right now that's going to hit a three-point shot against the Blazers, and he's getting open way more than he ever should, and that's nothing bad on the Blazers. That's just great coaching.
Yeah, I mean, well, just as an aside on Klay Thompson, he's like the only NBA superstar. Like, out of all the NBA superstars, he is the worst dribbler. Like,
yeah,
the dude dribbles with his head down.
Yeah,
like,
he's a catch and shoot player.
I know, but he's like, in terms of just guys that are pure catch and shoot guys, he's the best of that of all time.
Yeah,
because like Ray Allen and Reggie Miller were catch and shoot guys. They could also do other things, but like even they weren't really hitting threes in the way that Thompson does sometimes.
Right.
But, right. Yeah. I think one other argument against Steve Kerr is like the fact that like when he was gone in the first part of the season,
yeah, they still
they did just as well with Luke Walton as their coach. And I don't know, maybe Luke Walton's the next Red Auerbach, but like I doubt it. So
well,
like
we'll see what that project he has coming up next year.
Well, right. I don't know. Maybe this is a good test because Steve Kerr's assistant Luke Walton was just hired by the Lakers, and one of Popovich's assistants, well, off of his coaching tree anyway, Kenny Atkinson from Atlanta, was just hired by the Nets. So, two rebuilding teams hiring guys from those two philosophies. We'll see how those turn out.
Right. So, while we're just quickly on the topic of the Warriors, Steph just was named MVP for the second straight year. So, obvious. I mean, nobody thought differently. But we're waiting to see if it was unanimous or not. So, in 2000, Shaq got 120 out of the 121 first-place votes, and LeBron did the same thing in 2013. So that's the closest we've had to unanimous, and we'll see if Steph gets that 121. But there's always somebody, so I'm going to say he probably won't, but he should.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure there'll be somebody. I mean, like, LeBron deserves to be unanimous in 13 and Shaq 2000.
Yeah, but honestly, if he doesn't get it, you still can't really argue that, like, LeBron didn't deserve a first-place vote or something. Because, yes, Steph was noticeably better, and his team was way better, too. But, like, LeBron still had the best season, like, he's ever had, probably. And their team is in the Eastern Conference Finals and hasn't lost in the playoffs. So, like, you can't argue that he could get one vote.
Yeah, LeBron somehow is getting better every year, which could bring us to the Cavs if you want to talk about the Cavs for
yeah, sure.
You and I have had some disagreement on the Cavs.
Just a little.
I did originally pick them to win the East, but I never really gave them much chance in the finals. I thought whoever won the Western Conference would pretty easily win the finals. But lately, after seeing what the Cavs have done, winning 8 straight playoff games, you're pretty high on the Cavs. You want to talk about why, what changed?
Yeah, so if you listen to, what was it, probably 2 podcasts ago when we were just all over LeBron and all over the Cavs and saying they might not get out of the first round, let alone go to the finals, their team was abysmal then. And now it seems like they just flipped the switch. LeBron did a LeBron thing and just turned it up for the playoffs. They're playing with energy, they're playing with passion, they're playing with emotion. They're making threes that I didn't even know they could make. I did not think that team was a three-point shooting team, and apparently they are. Setting records for making most threes in the game. And the most important thing is that it seems like they meshed. So I don't know if it was... The first round, they were a little shaky. I mean, they played well, but they were still a little shaky. And then it seems like they got into this Hawks series, and they just completely found everything they were looking for. So I don't know if it was that extra time off or what. But in my opinion, the scariest thing that you can ever have in a basketball team is the mix of confidence, a little bit of an ego, and like the brotherhood that it seems like Cleveland finally formed, which is what the Warriors had last year, which took them over the top. So that makes it a little bit scarier. It's a team that I didn't think had any chance to win a ring, and now I actually wouldn't be surprised at all if they did win a ring.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think they'd be able to really do it when I was first looking at the way that this playoffs set up. Just like, I still thought they'd win the East just like almost by default because I didn't really like anybody else in the East that much.
Right.
But they just swept like a pretty good Hawks team. And only one of those games was even close, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, it really didn't need to be close. They didn't play as well as they had in the previous couple of games, so.
Yeah, I mean, right, that game where they set was that the all-time NBA record or just the playoff record for most of these games?
I think it was just playoffs.
Yeah.
25,
but,
I think.
But either way, you have, like, Richard Jefferson, like, out there hitting threes. Like I didn't know he was still in the league. And you just have this, like, cast of guys that it reminds me a lot of the big three East, really.
Yeah.
I mean...
And Kevin Love has played... He's probably been the best player on that team in these playoffs so far.
Yeah, I mean, this lineup with Love at center is very interesting. Like, I don't know if that's really playable against the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem, is, like, I don't know.
Well, if they did that, then the Warriors would go with Draymond at center, and I don't think Kevin Love can stand in front of Draymond, so.
Right, that's the problem. Is that, like, I think they're going to breeze through the East at this point. Like, I've seen enough from them that, like, I mean, Toronto and Miami have both looked pretty shaky. They're both missing their centers, like, right now. Like, I don't think there's really any chance that anybody can beat them more than maybe twice in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, so to show just how good Cleveland has been playing, ESPN ran a poll last night, I believe, just asking who would win the NBA Finals. The choices were Warriors, Thunder, Cleveland, Spurs, or other. And not one state picked the Spurs to win, which was kind of surprising to me. Only 2 states picked the Warriors, which were Arizona and California, and 1 picked OKC, Oklahoma, obviously, and then the Cavs were every other state. So that prompted Vegas to move the Cavs into second place in terms of odds. So now it's the Warriors are 10-11 to win the title, Cavs are 2-1, and Spurs are 3-1. So Vegas thinks they're legit, and I think they're pretty legit now too.
It feels to me like recency bias a little bit. That, like,
it definitely is. It definitely is.
I mean, there's no doubt they're good. There's no doubt, like, I'm looking at them better than I did a few weeks ago. Like, that's for sure. But I think, like, it's a little early to crown them right now. Because the Warriors have been kind of on autopilot because Curry's been in.
Right, and they're still winning games, though.
Right, like that Warriors team is still a team that won 73 games this year. And the Spurs are still a team that won 67. We'll talk about that series in a little bit. But I have concerns with how Cleveland is going to defend the Warriors in particular.
Yeah, so, I mean, Kyrie's been essentially a sieve on defense.
Oh, yeah. And Love has well-documented defensive issues that have gone back his entire career.
Right. The X factor is LeBron, though. I mean, if I was on the team, I don't care how bad defensively I was, I think I would take it to probably 3 levels higher just because of LeBron's presence and, like, what he commands from you. So, I mean, their defense really hasn't been an issue in the playoffs. Millsap went off, I think, once against... that was in Boston, so he didn't even do much against Cleveland. Nobody's really hurt them yet.
Right. Like, these dominant performances, like, they haven't faced a team that can really challenge them defensively. And so, like, I'm just thinking of, like, the lineup that the Cavs have liked to roll out, where they have Kyrie, LeBron, Love at center, and then they have a couple of shooters at the other spots. Like they play Thompson at the 4 sometimes, and he's a decent defender and certainly a good rebounder. But if the Warriors are throwing out Curry and Thompson, and then say Harrison Barnes, Draymond Green at the 5, and then they just put another one of the shooters there, or they play Livingston, or whatever. There's so many different ways they can go, right?
Yeah, like, they'd probably have Iggy in there.
Right. So, like, who? Like, LeBron can only guard one of them, right?
Yeah, so, like, that's the. Do you put? I
I probably put him on Thompson, honestly.
Really?
And I'm probably I honestly would probably use a lot of Dellavedova on Curry.
Yeah, I think.
As weird as that sounds, he's good at bothering people, and Curry. I mean, it sounds stupid, but he's very susceptible to being bothered.
No, he bothered him last year in the finals for sure, but I mean, it took Curry all 2 games
and that's what Chris Paul does.
Yeah.
Clippers play the Warriors, and he's had a good amount of success doing that. I think he just has to have a pain in the ass guy.
Yeah, you have to be physical.
I mean, I guess what the approach would be for the Cavs is they'd probably try and put Delly on Curry, which has certainly no guarantee of success. You put LeBron on Thompson, and then you try to hide Kyrie on Livingston, I guess.
I think Livingston would post up Kyrie, so I think you need LeBron on Draymond. And then I would probably have, if you say this is the winning lineup or something, so you take J.R. Smith out because he can't play defense, so you'd have I would have Dellavedova on Curry, and then Kyrie on Clay, and then you'd have to have
Clay is gonna put Kyrie in the toaster oven.
I know, but
put him on well done.
All you have to do is just get through screens, and we'll see if you can do it. But then you still have the problem of Kevin Love isn't going to be guarding Andre Iguodala. He's not going to be guarding Harrison Barnes. So there's no way to swing it that it's going to work for them.
Right. I'm just saying, these offensive lineups that you've been seeing, with J.R. Smith at the 2 and Kevin Love at the 5, these lineups where everybody can shoot besides Thompson, who's the rebounder, Yeah. These lineups that have been so successful so far in the Eastern Conference playoffs are virtually unplayable against the Warriors.
Yeah, and probably even the Spurs.
Right, yeah, the Spurs too. We haven't even talked about the Spurs matchup, which is a little bit friendlier to the Cavs, but not a lot friendlier.
They kind of warmed up against it with the Hawks, but they're not facing Kawhi. They're not facing Aldridge. Millsap is kind of a poor man's Aldridge. Aldridge is that's kind of an insult to him too, but there's no Kawhi. Bazemore and Cephalosha aren't even remotely comparable to Kawhi, so.
Right, yeah, so it was, I don't know, we were texting about it. You said the Hawks are the JV Spurs, which I think is a good, that's a good analogy. You can kind of get comparisons there, but they're, it will not be nearly as easy as playing the Hawks.
Right,
was.
System-wise, they saw what was going to happen, but they not the talent. You put talent with a good system like the Spurs have done for years, it's almost impossible.
Right, so I would be shocked if the Cavs were not in the finals. The way they're playing right now, I think Toronto, Miami are not going to post a challenge, especially if Valanciunas and Whiteside are either not playing or limited.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm excited to see the Cavs and the Warriors, or the Cavs and the Spurs, or even the Cavs and OKC, which we'll talk about in a little bit. That possibility, but I'm excited to see that with Kyrie playing, because we didn't see that last year.
Right. So even though at the beginning we almost completely wrote off any chance of anyone from the East competing, and basically just giving it to the winner of the Western Conference Finals, Cleveland has made it much more exciting for us to watch these finals now, because they brought their A game, and that's exactly what they needed to do, so it'll be interesting at least.
Yeah, we kind of just assumed that the Western Conference Finals would be the de facto finals.
Right.
But whoever wins the West is going to have to fight for it if they're playing.
Yeah, no, it's going to be
a cakewalk.
The Western Conference Finals and the East, and then the Finals are going to be back-to-back tough series for whoever comes out of the West.
Right, yeah, that's one advantage because we'll have is they're going to probably have an easy conference finals.
Especially if they only play 12 games to get there. Good Lord.
Or it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out war in the West, which we're already seeing in the Spurs Thunder series. You want to talk about that series a little bit?
So we'll go right to that. So last week we said, Jonah said something along the lines of, and the Spurs Thunder series is almost over, and I said, no, it is over. It's far from over.
Yeah, right, because at that point we'd only seen Game 1, which was an absolute embarrassing demolition of Thunder by the Spurs. It looks like the Thunder have woken up. The series is 2-2 now, heading back to San Antonio. Just last night, we saw, I don't know, sort of a vintage Kevin Durant performance.
Yes. That was a 2013 final performance against Miami.
I was texting our friend Dave, who we might be having on the podcast at some point soon as a guest. But I was talking to him, and I was saying, it turns out Kevin Durant is so good at basketball. And we saw that last night. He really took over the game, which I was very impressed with that, obviously.
Scoring 41 and having 10 rebounds with Kawhi Leonard as your primary defender, that's not just playing good basketball, that's playing perfect basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care how many shots he missed. I don't care. He was 3 for 5 from the free throw line in the fourth quarter. That was probably the worst thing he did all night as a 90% free throw shooter. So
I haven't seen anybody make Kawhi look silly on defense ever.
Seriously. And Kawhi was playing great defense.
He's crossing him up. This is insanity.
Kawhi was for the most part playing great defense, but Durant was just hitting shots that he shouldn't be making. Well, he should be because he's that good, but no one else would ever come close to making.
Yeah, I mean, I think Durant was making a statement right in Kawhi's face, coincidentally.
Yeah.
Saying look, me and LeBron are the two best wings in this game.
Yeah. So after that,
step off Kawhi. That's what he was saying.
After that first game, where they just were blown out, lost by 40, and the press conference afterwards, where they're asking Durant and Westbrook what's wrong, what happened, what are you thinking, and they were pretty much just brushing it off, oh, no big deal, just didn't have it tonight.
They're not friendly with the media members.
Yeah, but seeing that, I was almost wow, these guys just don't get it. There's no chance they can't come back in this series. And they've completely responded. Even though they lost Game 3, they were right there. There was a very good chance they won that game.
Yeah, right. I mean, they've all been close, other than Game 1.
Right, and they blew out the Spurs in the fourth quarter last night, which was pretty nice to see.
Right. I mean, I still think the Spurs are going to win the series, and there's a couple reasons why. One is I think they are massively better coached. I mean, we both agree that Popovich is a better coach than Billy Donovan, but
for sure,
I think that will have a huge. I think it tends to have a big impact on series with games as close as this one has. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Small things can make the difference, and the Spurs definitely have an edge in the coaching department, just general organizational stuff. I trust that better. The other thing is, the Thunder, especially their win last night, was relying heavily on some shooting from Dion Waiters.
Yeah, which was strange to see.
And that's the kind of thing that, I don't know if I trust that to continue to happen, because Dion Waiters. And he has an established track record of beating Dion Waiters. So, it's hard for me to trust that completely.
Right.
And so I mean, I don't know. I'm sticking with my pre-series prediction of Spurs 6. I think they'll win the next 2 games, but it certainly wouldn't shock me if OKC won, and that would make for a very interesting Western Conference Finals that we weren't really expecting.
Yeah. So one thing you didn't mention that I think will help the Spurs a lot is home court. Since they have 2 games at home. They
don't really lose at home much. They lost Game 2 at home, but
right. I mean, they've lost.
Their second home loss all season. So
yeah, exactly. So I think that's gonna help. Popovich is gonna help. I think I'm gonna flip here and go to the Thunder though, because there's a couple of reasons. So the Thunder have been abysmal in the fourth quarter. All year long. I mean, they really haven't had a good fourth quarter ever. They blew more fourth quarter leads than the Sixers did, which was 15 or something during the regular season. And last night, to just blow out the Spurs by 18 points in the fourth quarter, that put me on notice. And then if Kevin Durant keeps playing with this killer mentality that he's been playing with, Russell Westbrook really hasn't been a factor in this series yet. I mean, he's played well, but he hasn't played Russell Westbrook well.
Yeah, I've been surprised that it's been like the Waiters Durant show.
Yeah, so to have 2 wins against what we would consider the best team if the Warriors weren't in existence, then I don't know. Without a great Westbrook yet, I like what they're doing. I think
I see that.
They're even playing good defensively too. Like, yes, Aldridge went off for them in 2 games, but he's been non-existent since then. Danny Green was so hot to start the playoffs and hasn't really even been able to get a jumper off, let alone make one. Tony Parker's been okay. Duncan is like almost too old to count now, and Kawhi was great for 3 quarters last night and then disappeared. So they're even playing defense, which they haven't done in a long time, which just makes it a scary combination. And I think they're so driven to get to the finals again because they haven't been there in so long, and everyone's like, oh, they're going to blow up the team. Kevin Durant's gone. Westbrook's gone next year. I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think they're going to all stay. I think they're going to win this series. I don't think they're going to make it to the finals, but I don't think the team's going to blow up either. I think they're going to get something going good here and then stay together for a while, which I think will be great for the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about free agency in a little bit because that's a really interesting topic. But I think this series is going to hinge on one matchup, and that's Serge Ibaka and LaMarcus Aldridge. We haven't been talking much about Ibaka in the last couple of years. Like he just hasn't been like as notable of a player as he had been in the past. Like he can certainly disappear for stretches. But if he continues to play, and it's not just general team defense, but like whichever one outperforms the other in the last couple of games, because LaMarcus has been pretty quiet. Like whichever one wins that matchup, their team will win the series, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Aldridge is a guy. I mean, I don't know. I feel like people have been forgetting he's on the Spurs.
Yeah, because he's like an afterthought. Let alone, but then he drops 41 in Game 2, and it's like, oh, right.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Because people think of the Spurs, they think Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan, and then they think of Kawhi as being the new generation. But like, LaMarcus Aldridge is one of the 15 best players in the league, probably.
He might even be top 10. He probably is top 10.
So like, the Spurs have. They don't have like 2 top 6 players that like the Thunder have, but they're obviously a much deeper team.
And they've been there, and they know how to win, and they just have everything else.
Right. So I think, moving to the free agency aspect a little bit until talking about the series, I think if OKC gets bounced in the second round again, especially if it doesn't even go to 7, like if they drop Game 6 at home and the Spurs win, and like and it's just another second round exit for Oklahoma City, I think that Kevin Durant is going to look around and start to think, all right, is this team going anywhere? Like, is this the place I want to be if I want to win a title? So I think this series has a huge impact on just the landscape of the league in general, beyond what's going to happen in this playoffs.
Yeah, so I liked what ESPN said about this, that Kevin Durant is essentially auditioning for his next job if he chooses not to stay on OKC, or even if he does, because if he plays well and they succeed, he's going to want to stay there. So that's exactly what he's doing, and he's playing really well. The Kevin Durant of old is coming back. Just quickly, I hate Serge Ibaka. Like, nothing personal, but like, I just don't enjoy when a guy who made his living playing in the paint and hitting like 16 to 18 foot jumpers decides to strictly shoot 3-pointers from the corner when you're like 6'10" and you have no impact on the game whatsoever.
He made his name as a shot blocker.
I know, and he doesn't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
I personally think they made the wrong decision to keep him over James Harden. I know they probably defensively it was probably a better choice, obviously, but
they should have kept James Harden.
Yeah, that could have been like the 3
offensively. Just they would have had 3 of the 5 best offensive players.
Yeah, just picture running out Westbrook, Harden, and Durant and trying to guard them every night. Like, good luck there. But yeah, I before this series, actually after Game 1, I was almost certain Kevin Durant was going to find himself somewhere else. And after his last 3 games, I'm now almost certain he's going to stay in OKC.
Yeah, he looks like he wants to be there.
Which is good to finally see someone actually caring about that.
Yeah, I mean, the scenario that everybody's been talking about is that he signs a 1-year contract, so he and Westbrook both hit free agency in the same year, and then they go try and play in the same place together.
The Lakers has been the idea so far.
Right. I mean, I hope it's not that, but
yeah, I would love to see Durant in Miami. I'd love to see him in Washington. I mean, Washington did everything they could, signing Scott Brooks, trying to lock up Bradley Beal. That could be a scary trio right there with Scott Brooks as a coach, but
you should just accept that it's going to be the Knicks.
Well, I'm more partial because I live close to DC, so I would be able to see him. You still wouldn't if he was in New York.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, college-wise, I'm much closer to Boston. The Celtics have been mentioned.
No, that can't happen. I don't think that's possible.
No, I don't really see why he would go to Boston. I don't really see the advantages of that, but there's been an interesting story going around lately. You want to talk about that?
For the Spurs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for some reason, people think he's going to go to San Antonio, or that San Antonio might even offer him a deal. I can't see them offering him anything. I can't see him taking anything from there. I don't really see how he fits. Obviously, he'd make them better. There's no doubt about that.
He makes every team better.
Yeah.
They play him somewhere. They'd figure it out.
But I don't know. The Spurs, I mean, the first time I've ever seen the Spurs actually go out and make a deal that, made headlines was with LaMarcus Aldridge, and I don't know that they would do the same thing the next year when what they have is so good right now.
Yeah, I mean, if he expressed a desire to go there, they'd figure it out, because you don't pass up on getting
you're
Kevin
not going to say no to Kevin Durant.
Right, but, they couldn't offer him as much money as other teams could, certainly.
Right.
Just because of the way their team is structured. It's not like they planned for the purpose of signing Kevin Durant. It wasn't something they expected was going to be in the realm of possibility. So they haven't, built their roster in such a way that it's easy to accommodate Kevin Durant. Obviously, that would be a ridiculous team if Kevin Durant were on it, but it seems like the kind of thing you do in NBA 2K, when you can force trades in your franchise.
Right. Yeah, I mean, probably the way they would have to do it is have, Duncan and Ginobili retire and just fill that spot with...
Or just have them take massive pay cuts, which is something the Spurs have shown an ability to get their players.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't even have to ask Tim Duncan twice to take a pay cut to get Kevin Durant there.
No, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'd do it. I mean, you've seen with veterans coming in the past, like David West, who was on that team that didn't forget about.
Right, who's the third-string power forward and could start on most rosters.
Way less money and way less minutes to play in San Antonio.
Yeah, Miami actually offered him double the salary yearly that he's getting in San Antonio, and he said no.
Yeah, and he probably could have gotten triple it with a bad team.
Yeah, yeah. The Pacers would have paid him probably a ton to stay there.
Right, yeah, the Pacers offered him at least $10 million a year, and I think he's making something like $3 million.
Yeah, I think it's $3 million. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, that'd be fun, but.
It would be fun to see him in Golden State. It'd be fun to see him in Miami. It'd be fun to see him in the Clippers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I think that could be better than Westbrook, Harden, and Durant as a team would be Curry, Thompson, Durant, and Draymond.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is Harrison Barnes is a free agent at the end of the year, so you let Harrison Barnes walk, let the Lakers overpay him.
Yeah, Bogut's gone too.
And then just sign Kevin Durant with that money, and you can run out of a 7-man rotation.
While we're speaking about Warriors and money, fun fact: Steph Curry is the 65th highest paid player in the NBA and 5th highest paid on his own team. So yeah, there you go.
He's the 2-time consecutive MVP.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the reason is because they signed that contract when his ankles were still supposedly made of tissue paper.
Yeah, but still.
So it was like the injury risk was baked into the contract, but his next contract will be significantly bigger. He'll be doing fine.
Yep, he'll be the highest paid player most likely. Well, LeBron's got a big one coming here too, but we'll see. All right, so you want to wrap that up and go on to baseball real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we're not going to talk a lot about baseball, but just about a hot issue that has recently come up. So we mentioned, I think, last week that D. Gordon, who's the second baseman for the Marlins, was suspended for 80 games for PED use. And so recently the topic of PEDs has come up big time in the MLB because a lot of players feel that almost everyone is using and they're just finding ways to get around the system, which has really happened in baseball for quite some time, just figuring out ways to cheat the system almost. So that's been a problem that I don't know that it's a problem because people say, like the old adage is, oh, it hurts baseball because it hurts the history and fans don't want to see these like players are cheating and everything. I almost feel it's the exact opposite. Yes, it does hurt the history because you're like, oh, they had to cheat to be good, but if Giancarlo Stanton can hit 540-foot home runs, it's going to make people want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with baseball, I think this is true for every sport, but I think with baseball especially, is like the game is so radically different from it was. Like even besides PEDs, like the game is so radically different, like that the records don't mean anything. I mean, you know, nobody hits 400 anymore. Babe Ruth is hitting 714 home runs. Like he was playing against guys throwing 82-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah, if he's not playing against he's not playing against Clayton Kershaw throwing a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, then a curveball that drops about 18 inches going 70.
Yeah, Babe Ruth probably be like too drunk to even deal with Clayton Kershaw fastball. So like this whole like sanctity of the record book stuff, I think is nonsense. I don't know. I think this stigma of like the MLB as being the league with the steroid problem is kind of silly. Like when it's pretty clearly the NFL.
Yeah.
It's more obvious in baseball because baseball just has like a super long history in like of being an essential part of American culture, even though not as many people watch it today as watch the NFL. Like baseball is still like the most quintessentially American sport, even if it's not the most popular sport in the U.S. And so I think there's a sense like players using steroids are like it's almost un-American in a way, you know?
Yeah.
And then the other part is like it's much easier to see the impact that steroids have on the record books in baseball than it is in football.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, T. Gordon, to go back to the current issue, is like he's not the kind of guy who you expect to get caught using steroids. He's like a speedster. He's not a power hitter.
Yeah, they said he's always had problems keeping weight on. Like he could eat 5,000 calories a day and he would like lose 10 pounds. So he's not a home run hitter. He's not trying to be a home run hitter. He's not. I don't even think he knew what he was doing, which is like the excuse of every baseball player ever when they got caught with steroids, or any player for that matter of any sport.
There's a thin line between like stuff you use for medical rehab and like stuff that's used as a deliberate performance enhancer.
I mean, so, like, the left tackle of I think it was the Vikings, got suspended for some PED was in his urine sample when they tested him, and it turned out he ate raw meat, and that's what gave it. Like there was no intention whatsoever. He just ate bad meat, and he got caught for PEDs. So like. There could be that, and then you miss 80 baseball games. Like that's not what you want. But the legit cheating, yes, I don't think it's a good thing. Like why would you ever say, oh, this sport is so good, but all the players cheat? Like you don't want to say that. But I do think it makes it more fun. Like Giancarlo Stanton just hit a 490-foot home run. I don't think he's using steroids. He's just a freak. And I mean that's fun to watch. But what if he could hit it 600 feet and leave 2 ballparks instead of 1?
Yeah, I'm not a person that like is that. I think the silliest argument with PD is like the Hall of Fame argument. Like Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. Because, like, it's not...
That's the history thing, though. Like, they feel bad that all these other players are in the Hall of Fame and they did it the right way, so to speak. But these players now that cheat don't.
The Baseball Hall of Fame museum. It's, like, about, like, all the stuff that happened. I don't know, maybe you put on his plaque that he used steroids. But, like, it's not what it's about. You know what I mean? Like, the same thing with Pete Rose.
Put the big, huge red asterisk right next to his name in, like, 72 font.
Yeah, instead of the SF Giants logo on his hat, you just put an asterisk on his hat. It's fine. That should be the punishment for steroids. You get in the Hall of Fame, but you get an asterisk on your hat.
That would be good. That might work.
Yeah, well, that's what they did. The guy who got Barry Bonds, like, home run number 756 to beat the record.
Yeah.
He had, like, an online poll when this happened. Like, this was, like, it had to be at least, like, 12-ish years ago now. Where the options were he could either just give it to the Hall of Fame as is, he could destroy the ball, or he could draw a big asterisk on it in Sharpie and give it to the Hall of Fame like that, and that option won. So that ball's in the Hall of Fame. I've seen it with a big asterisk on the ball that says, like, the little label under it that says this is the ball and blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't know. I just think the Hall of Fame, like, I think people are too worked up with that kind of thing.
Yeah, so, while we were talking about this, I really don't have a problem. I don't know. It's hard to, like, say. I do have a problem with steroids because it's cheating. By definition, that's just cheating. You're gaining an illegal advantage.
And you don't want kids doing it either. Like, it's a slippery kind of slope.
Right. If that makes its way into high school, we're done. But it also makes me feel bad for players like Derek Jeter, who, like, completely did everything the right way, but then, like, his numbers won't look anywhere close to someone who just juices their entire life. And another thing is injuries that I was just thinking about. Steroids often lead to terrible injuries. Like A-Rod, who since used steroids can't even stand up to walk sometimes anymore. So there's also that fear.
Yeah, I just think people who worry so much about the steroid problem should be more concerned with, like, the domestic violence problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you have Jose Reyes, which broke my freaking heart because he was, like, one of my childhood heroes as a Mets fan. He just got suspended 60 games for domestic violence, which I don't love that punishment is 20 games less than D. Gordon got for the steroids.
Yeah, but it's so substantial. Like, can we have the NFL and NBA do that? Like, the NFL, you get 2 games for beating the crap out of someone, but the MLB, you miss 2/3 or a third of your season. Right.
So, like, I don't know. People talk about baseball, like, it's got these problems. Like, football has twice these problems in the same area.
Yes.
So, I think people are, like, getting a little bit too worked up about it just because, like, there's just something about baseball that makes it like that.
So,
and a lot of the baseball media is, like, older, you know?
Right, yeah.
I don't know, that kind of thing.
In a way, baseball is the same as golf, whereas, like, they're trying so hard to protect the history and not necessarily change anything that makes the game what it is. Like, you know, golfers have to wear pants because why? Well, that's just what they did 100 years ago. So, like, they're two sports that are trying to stay almost cemented in their history while also expand the game and go to younger generations, which we've seen been pretty difficult for golf and for baseball.
Right,
so,
I mean, baseball starts off with a much broader base, obviously, and, like, it's always kind of bigger audience than golf, and that's just the way it would be.
Because, I mean, almost every single kid plays t-ball. Like, literally almost every kid I've ever met played t-ball. So,
like,
you're
guys
all going to start.
Girls, like, play t-ball. It's like such a universal thing, more so than football.
And even basketball.
Football's the most popular pro sport.
Yeah.
Baseball's still the sport that kids play more than anything else.
Right. So I think instead of focusing on getting PEDs out of baseball, which I don't know, I still am up in the air if it would hurt or help, but that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money. I think they should focus that time and that money on getting the kids who quit when they're 12, 13, 14 that are just bored of baseball or it just doesn't appeal to them. I think they need to take that money and time away from PEDs and try to find a way to get the game to get more interest in the game like it used to be 50 years ago when it was like the only show in town.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you talk to anybody's grandparents, basically, like, anybody ours, like, your grandparents,
right.
If you're older and listening to this, like, your parents, like, when they were growing up, I mean, my grandparents all grew up in Brooklyn, and, like, the Brooklyn Dodgers was, like, the center of life at the time there. Like, they knew all the Dodger players. Like, it used to cost 5 cents to go sit in the bleachers, and they'd go, like, every day.
Right.
Like, so, if baseball can kind of recapture that. I mean, it'll never recapture that completely, just because there's more different sports now than there were then.
Yeah, like if you asked an older generation who their favorite athlete was, you'd almost hear like Sandy Koufax or Jackie Robinson or something along those lines.
Say like Mickey Mantle and Carlos Gretzky and
but we're gonna say LeBron, we're gonna say Steph Curry, we're gonna say Odell Beckham, we're gonna say Des Bryant. Like I don't know that we're gonna mention MLB players, even though we do like those players. I don't know that that's like an athlete that you're like, oh yes, I want to be him someday.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the household you grew up in too. I mean, like, my house baseball was the biggest thing. I mean, my first athlete here was like Piazza.
Yep, me too.
But like, I think it depends where you grow up. I mean, kids growing up like in inner cities, especially, like, their answer is almost never going to be a baseball player.
Right.
Just because of it. I think basketball takes hold there in large part because it's so easy to play. Like, you don't have to buy equipment. All you need is the ball and a hoop.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, it's easier for kids to play basketball in cities. So that's a factor too. But yeah, I mean, all sports have changed with the times. I think basketball and football are just better suited to the time we're in right now. So that's why they're so popular. And like, hockey certainly gaining popularity too. Right. Especially in like the southern United States where it hasn't historically been as big.
Right.
Like, hockey is certainly on the upswing as well. And like, I don't know, maybe baseball's on its way down, but like, I think that was kind of inevitable. I don't think there's some crisis in baseball. Like, I think this is just the way baseball was going to be headed.
Yeah, and you can only be on the top for so long. I mean, 100 and something years isn't bad, so.
No, yeah, it was a pretty good run being the number one sport.
And it's still, I mean, no one's going to take away that it was America's pastime. It just might be a different modern time, and who knows what can happen in the future.
Right, there's still nothing like throwing out the first pitch of a baseball game in terms of status.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
All right, so you got anything else for baseball?
No, I think that's all set.
All right, so we're going to go end with a topic that Jonah and I just kind of thought of today, almost for no reason, and that's essentially it's are college athletes ready for pro sports? Not in the physical aspect, but in the mental aspect. So what made us think of it is Laremy Tunsil, who, as you all know, slipped down draft boards quite quickly because of a video of him smoking, and then we find out that he was paid by Ole Miss players to pay bills, which Jonah and I have already been on the record saying, I don't care, because he's trying to keep the lights on for his mother. Like, are you seriously going to blame the kid for that?
Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah, to text all you trust to, like, ask for help.
Yeah.
With his mom's house, like...
Geez, sorry.
I'm okay with that.
I don't want my mother to be homeless. God, just kill me.
Yeah.
And then last week, they also said that... so Laremy Tunsil had a agent/financial advisor who actually was like a complete imposter. All these other agents at the NFL draft told him he needs to get rid of him because they've never heard of who this guy was. He wasn't even certified. So it's you just feel so bad for him. Like, this kid who could have been the number one pick in the draft has his life almost flipped upside down in a week, and it's all on national TV. So that is one example. And then you have his college teammate, Robert Nkemdiche, who fell out of a 2-story window because he was slightly intoxicated and probably other things, now saying he wants to buy a tiger for the first thing he does with his NFL check. I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know that I would put a tiger in his hands. And then you also always hear about all these players, even after they retire, going completely bankrupt just because they don't know what it means to, like, actually be a human. They only know what it means to be a freak athlete and live the athlete lifestyle, which is it's a great thing for them, but it can turn into a big time problem as we've seen. And personally, I think the NFL does a pretty damn good job of like trying to educate them. I mean, they have the rookie symposium where Herm Edwards always screams and hollers at all the players, and they always have some story of some bankrupt athlete who comes back
like
and
boot camp
yeah, exactly. They're going to college class for like 2 weeks to basically get screamed at and told like this is how you need to live your life. You can't do all these crazy extravagant things. So. The answer to the question, are college kids actually ready for pro sports? I think almost always is no, unless you find the rare senior who's like mature beyond his years for no reason. I don't know, like Keenan Reynolds kind of comes to mind, goes to Navy and just like learns what it means to be an adult.
That's a man right there. Yeah, that's not a boy. That's
exactly.
A man.
And then you have Robert Nkemdiche wanting to buy a tiger. So like, there's just two completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you in that aspect that like most college athletes are not necessarily ready right away, just because like they're just, I don't know, they're kids still. I mean, like the thing is anybody really ready for adulthood?
Yeah.
But the thing that makes it bad with these athletes is they get money and attention thrown on them instantly,
and they immediately become role models.
Right, so they're expected to be role models. They get all this money, all this media attention, and they get these things all at once. It's like too much too soon. You know?
And
so, right, like I don't think they're any less ready for adulthood than any other person leaving college. Like I'm not sure what I'm gonna be doing when I'm leaving college.
Yeah.
But like I don't feel like an adult yet, so I can't blame guys who are leaving the NBA draft at the same age I am. Like for not being ready to be.
Yeah, so that's another point too, that like the people we just mentioned are football players who have to stay for 3 years, and you have like next year you're gonna have Thon Maker in the NBA draft this year actually, who's didn't even go to college. He went to high school and then 1 year of prep school. The kid's 19 years old and he's about to be making $5 million a year. Like,
well, yeah, I mean these are kids, they're younger than us, but they're getting $15 million. Like, well, this is not like an easy thing to handle. I mean, I think where you and I differ is like I don't think there's that much to be done about it. Like I think
I almost think you can't do anything about it. Like, I mean, you can't. There's ways to like make it better, but I don't know that you're ever gonna be like disallowing Robert Nkemdiche to buy a tiger. Like I just.
Well, right. I mean, you're not like gonna. There's no way to stop young newly rich people from doing dumb stuff. I just don't think this is a new problem. I think the reason that we're seeing it more now is like, I don't know. I mean, I think kids coming into the NFL in the 80s were smoking pot and stuff. It just wasn't on Twitter, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so like, it's just coming out more now. It's the stuff that you know now that like just used to be, you didn't know it.
Right.
And so I don't think this is a new issue. Like, you're always going to have people that burn out.
Certainly.
Because, I don't know, like you said, they've been living, like, the athlete lifestyle their whole lives. Like, they don't, like, they haven't had a lot of opportunity to learn other useful life skills, which is fine if you're going to be a pro athlete like that. Those are the skills you need. It's not like, I don't know, I'm not saying they have to, like, sit there and learn how to, like, do the Pythagorean theorem or whatever. I mean, like, to a point you have to be educated. It's not like you have to, like, write some senior thesis.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, they don't need to go get a degree in finance or anything.
Well, exactly. I mean, I know you're not saying that. I'm just saying, like, there's stuff that can be done in terms of like making sure the agents and people are legit. Like,
yeah, that's what.
Making sure those credentials are checked out.
Right.
Making sure that like, I mean, like to a point it's up to you to surround yourself with the right people.
Right.
But the leagues can make it so the people that come into your life in relation to the league are legit.
Yeah, no.
So, like, they're not going to be able to control who your friends are.
Yeah,
off season. But, like, in terms of, like, agents and stuff, like you said, or, like, people that are, like, team PR and stuff like that, like, people that have a lot of interaction with your money and your fame,
Yeah.
Like, you can make sure that those people are legit, have their best interest in mind. Like, don't want to blow up these guys' fame too soon just because it helps team PR or whatever. Like,
right.
You gotta be looking out for the kids also.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think you're not going to force anything to happen. I don't think that's ever going to be possible. But I think, so I think the NFL definitely does their part with the rookie symposium and everything. I think they could probably do a little bit more. And I think the NCAA could even do more to, like, have every college athlete, they might even do this, actually, I'm not sure, but have every college athlete go through, like, some sort of class, not, like, of how to become, like, how to manage your fame, but something along those lines, like, just how to deal with what's about to come. Like, I don't think Jared Goff is ready to be a number one pick in the NFL and have all that pressure and fame come to him, like,
the starting quarterback of a team move into the second biggest city in the United States.
Exactly. There's probably no 21-year-old.
Prepare you for that.
Yeah, no 21-year-old is ever going to be ready for that. Like, a la Johnny Manziel, how you doing now? Not even in the NFL.
Correct.
So that's not going to happen. But one thing that keeps coming into my mind is, like, the NFL appointing a financial manager or something like that, which isn't going to go over well with any athlete because it's their money and they're going to want to do what they want to do with their money. And that's just more control that the NFL has over a player. But
which they already arguably have too much.
Right. So, I don't know. It's a tough issue, and it's always going to be an issue, like you said. But the one other big factor is parents, I think. Like, I don't know if you heard Eli Apple's mom, who just got drafted by the Giants.
Wonderful woman.
Her quote.
I wish she was part of my organization.
her quote about Eli Apple getting dressed for the draft to go to the green room. He was trying to pick out a watch, and he went to pick out a Rolex, and she said, "Boy, you don't need a Rolex. You're a college dropout who's unemployed right now. Just put normal clothes on and let's go." So that's what you need. That's like, you need that strong figure to hopefully not let you buy a Tiger with your first NFL check.
Right, exactly. I mean, to some extent, this relies on the leagues and the teams. I mean, just with, like, this, I don't know, like, with the team environment, like, if you're, I don't know, if we're talking about this year's draft, like, I would, just in terms of, like, a guy's future well-being, like, a guy being drafted by Sacramento, I'm a lot less confident in his turning out well than I am if he gets drafted by Miami.
Right, with DeMarcus Cousins and Rajon Rondo in the locker room.
because of the culture in place, like, regardless of how, like, an equally good kid getting picked by each of those teams, like, one has a better chance of turning out, like, normal.
Right.
Because of the role models they have around them. And that's stuff that you can't always control. But, like, ultimately, I think the biggest factor, like you said, is, like, just what these kids are like and how they've been raised. And, you know, and if you have a mom like Eli Apple's mom, like, that's a plus.
Exactly.
That's a plus.
Yeah, that's not going to ever hurt you.
Yeah, absolutely. The Giants team mom this year, they're going to be 2 wins better because of Eli Apple's mom.
Exactly.
I might pick them to make the playoffs now.
There we go. It's exactly what we need. Or you could, I mean, even, like, so Dallas, when Des Bryant was having all those issues with going out, like, almost a Johnny Manziel type thing, just not to that extent, they essentially assigned him a babysitter. Like, you're not going to have someone babysit your money, but you could have something relatively close to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if the teams want to impose that, like there's sometimes not much a player can do about it. So, like, sometimes the teams, they got to be strict, but you got to know how long to make the leash, because if you make it too short, they're going to choke on it.
Yeah, but how awful was that for Des Bryant to have, like, someone have to sit in his house and watch over him for a year? But look what happened.
But hey, he hasn't been in trouble for a year.
That's the point. Nothing's happened since that. Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know. Something like that, maybe. But, yeah, I think pro sports does much better preparing the pro athletes than college should do to prepare a pro athlete. But, yeah, the NCAA doesn't do a lot right, so we're never going to give them props.
Right, yeah, right. And just, like, I don't know, it's hard to put on the NCAA because the vast majority of their athletes aren't going pro. So, like,
yeah, that's another problem. You can't have, like, a D3 athlete going through, like, some fame program because, like, he might just sign one-day contract.
Because that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's a lot of money for the NCAA to invest into people that like won't ever make the pros. I mean, why? Like the third string linebacker who's a walk-on, are you gonna have him? So I don't know. It's kind of it's a tricky issue, but I feel like something has to be done at this point after seeing Ole Miss players essentially drown themselves after the draft.
Yeah, really. Maybe there's something in the water there. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something in the water. That's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, but yeah, you got anything else on that?
No, I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, so that'll do it. Please make sure you share the podcast if you listen to it. Even if you don't listen to it, just share it anyways.
Yeah.
But we'll be back next week, and we'll probably try to stick to this same sort of format. And next week, get ready to hear me talk a lot about the Capitals playing the Lightning because we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
All right, see you later.
I'll be $5 richer if they don't, so we'll see.
And I'll be $5 richer when they do, so here we go.
Yeah.